Now, I have owned my GS1100E for 43 years. 43 years is a long time to own a motorcycle, I know that. One of the things I've tried to do over the course of that time was always over-maintain it. Always the oil changes, the filters, all of the valve adjustment timings, all of the things, the fork oil changes. I've tried to really maintain the bike exactly like the manual says. Now, I understand a lot of people, and even some of my friends, think it's overkill, it's unnecessary, and maybe they're right. But I have enjoyed doing it, knowing that in the future, for as long as I live, I will own a well-maintained motorcycle. And these are getting harder and harder to find, if not impossible. And even when you do find one, you've got to pay a fortune for it. So I think all the investment of time, energy, and money into over-maintaining this, worth every penny. Now, one little example of why I over-maintain this, I actually over-maintain, I try to anyway, all the bikes in my humble collection. But this one in particular, there's times I want to ride it, and the streets have a little bit of salt on it after the winter. And I always very, very carefully and meticulously let it cool down, get underneath there, get all the salt off, try to get the salt off the wheels and up under the seat. And thinking that, well, you know, to buy that exhaust system now, to buy that exhaust is impossible. Nobody stocks it. If you find one out on eBay somewhere there, and it's in decent shape, you're going to pay a mortgage on your house for it. And there's just certain things like that, that if you maintain something and maintain the value of the original part, you don't have to replace it. So somewhere down the road, the over-maintenance really does pay off. Now, of course, the big things, the oil changes, the filters, the fork oil, that kind of stuff goes without saying. But there's the little things. Now, another little thing that I do religiously, I use Meguiar's spray, wax, and cleaner. If I come back from a ride and it's a little bit rainy and there's water dots on everything, I clean it up as soon as I get home. I don't wait till the next day. And almost every time I go out on the open road, I'll take the Meguiar's wax and just look around for stuff that's, well, you know, it just looks like maybe I picked it up on the last ride, and or a little chips in the paint that I can fix. But the constant picking away at it and maintaining it, what happens? You don't see it, but then all of a sudden one day, the bike looks a lot better than if you didn't do it. And especially if the exhaust starts to rust out, or certain parts of the bike that you can't really replace easily start to deteriorate, then you look back and say, why didn't I just do the maintenance? Why didn't I just clean that at the end of that ride? Another thing, I have a garage. I never ever put a car, or in my life have I ever put a car in a garage. No motorcycles go in a garage. And I know a lot of people that from time to time store a bike outdoors, and the snow and rain gets on it, and well, you can figure it out. And I don't think that's really a great idea. Now, I've seen people that try to restore bikes that have been left out in the rain, and it's a nightmare. So I always think, because these things are so hard to get now, and so much fun once you get one and you get it running right, it's just not worth, to me, it's just not worth risking it, leaving it out in the rain. And I know people that have covered it with plastic covers from Harbor Freight, and the wind blowing on the plastic, rubbing on the paint, has ruined the paint. So what I'm suggesting is, even if you had to rent a storage spot for it, and I know other people that have rented to store other things, furniture and stuff, I think these are really worth keeping. To me, they're precious. They're just not something you can say, well, I'll just go to the store, take some money out of the bank, go buy a new one. That's the problem. You just can't buy a new one. Another part of the over-maintaining that I try to do anyway, I had a chance many years ago, 10, 12 years ago, I don't remember, to get a parts bike. One that had almost everything intact and in decent shape, the wheels, the tank, the bodywork, all this stuff, but it needed an engine crank. It needed a seal on the end of the engine crank. So, which is a big major job. But I thought it was worth the couple of $100s I paid for the bike. It was worth it because the parts that came with it, I got a whole exhaust system, which now turns out that 10, 15 years later is priceless. I got the wheels, which I made a set of gold wheels. I took the tank and all the bodywork and made the West Cooley version of the bike. I had an extra set of instruments, which I wound up needing when the speedometer went bad on this after 28,000 miles. So, and little parts that I've used off the parts bike, I've gotten way more than double my money back already. I needed the tail light, of all things. The tail light cracked. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Another thing that's priceless, the stock GS bars that have the weights built into the end. You can't buy them anywhere. They're priceless. All of the things that come with extra, the shocks that came with the bike. I haven't needed any of the suspension things yet for some reason, and I don't know why. After 80,000 miles, a little over 80,000 miles, number one, the engine is rock solid, doesn't burn any oil, doesn't do anything funny yet, doesn't show me it needs any major maintenance, and I think over-maintaining it has helped make that happen. Now, a lot of the parts on this bike, because from that era, the bikes had a lot of polished aluminum parts, and they need to be maintained. Now, on this bike, I did a lot of engine polishing. I made several videos of polishing different parts of the engine, of the exhaust, whatnot. But maintaining it is another thing. Once you polish something, you have to maintain it. Now, a good idea, if you're going to put the bike away over the winter, even in a garage, where you're not going to ride it for 2, 3, 4 months, just take a little WD-40 on a rag and wipe it on all the chrome. And then wipe it off before you go and actually ride the bike in the spring. Clean it then. And that's helped me just keep the bike rust-free, and in nice condition. Now, we used to winterize boats by spraying WD-40 into the engine while it was running. Ray will remember that trick. But I don't do that because I run the bikes through the winter. Roughly once a month, I'll run them, bring them up to temperature. And I think that keeps all the moisture out of the exhaust, helps keep the exhaust from rotting through. And boy, that's one thing I think is precious. And because I'm 80 years old, I want to have these bikes as nice as I can keep them right up to the very end when we go to that big track day in the sky. Now, another thing I tend to do to keep the bikes over-maintained, I try to share extra parts I have with friends that have the similar bike. Jim Skinner's got 3 of them now. And we share parts. We've shared things that we interchange. And when somebody needs a wheel or a side cover or something, we try to, well, you know, just share them. And I think that keeps all of the bikes over-maintained. Joe Padula's got a beautiful GS, and he's borrowed my carburetors to do some tuning on his bike. We've been able to share. We've been able to keep each other's bikes over-maintained, and I think that's kind of cool, kind of a neat part of motorcycling. Now, if you're new to our channel, we have a very, very eclectic channel. One of the new features we have now is some of the videos are grouped into groups that you can access all the videos for one category in one mouse click, and it should be very convenient and very handy. Just check out the feature on the main screen playlist. And thanks to everybody for supporting the channel. We appreciate your support, and it makes this channel possible with all the things we do, the painting, the wheels, the polishing. And please take a second or two and hit the like button. And thanks everyone for watching.